Welcome to the Market Mystics Podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. Happy Monday. Happy Thanksgiving. We were just saying we kind of forgot to say anything in the members only episode that came out last Thursday. So let it be belated, but happy Thanksgiving.
That's the one problem with recording a couple days in advance is we don't always think about what date it's coming out on. So happy Thanksgiving.
That is the truth.
So grateful for all of our listeners and all of our members.
True. I was just having a conversation last week with someone who I've known for a really, really long time. But through the years of knowing them or being acquaintances with them, I just kind of found out that they were into crypto. And then later I found out that they really hold some of the same beliefs that I do about crypto, that it's divinely inspired and things like that. And I was having a conversation with him last week, and I was thinking about how grateful I am for this podcast and just like a place that we can talk about some of this stuff, right? Like it gives a really good reason to be intentional about keeping up with that, about, diving into and muddling through some of our faith journey stuff. Mm-hmm. And it just, not everybody has that. And I'm just really grateful for that. So I am super grateful that you guys listen. If it's your first time, welcome. But I guess we're kicking it off with gratitude.
It's a good time.
Kind of in the same thread though. I was sitting with the Lord yesterday, and I feel like the way that I encounter him is so different these days than it was 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. And he brought up some things that he was leading me to 5+ years ago that I kind of had forgotten were a thing. And I thought that season was over and those things were done. That the things, kind of the warnings that he gave on a broader scope that I was the recipient of, that right now only I'm starting to see those things come back around and the necessity for them. And I was just a little blown away. Like, I know that this is his character. I do know that.
Yeah.
But in real life, in my real practice, it's been also fairly easy along the journey to just roll on by, like when seasons pass, to let them go. And so I've started seeing multiple different things from times past start coming back up spiritually. And I wanted to ask if you've noticed any of that too, even if you're in a different paradigm.
I mean, the short answer is yes. So, like, a couple things come to mind of like, both spiritually and just like kind of in life. I mean, I know we talked about it, but like, you know, both of us went back to like kind of a normal job. And that was sort of like a throwback to 5 years ago type thing. And then, like spiritually, I would say I've been in a season where it feels like I was kind of going back to even further back than that. And then, just the past few days, like I've been having some conversations with Bree of like, not sure what to do with all the things that like I'm learning and we're holding like it doesn't quite fit in this box, but it doesn't quite fit in this box. And yeah, so I think, and that's very much so how I felt like a few years ago. You know, like I don't know how long ago it was, a little over 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I guess, a little over 6 years ago, that I really started like diving into like more mystical things. And then that like brought up a lot of like questions of like, well, how does this fit in the paradigm that I've been living in? And just asking a lot of questions about those things. And I feel kind of similar to that now, where like some of the things that we've been going through and learning, it's like, well, where does that plug in? And I have figured out, like, through all of it, if I just give God some time, it all sort of falls into place. But yeah, I think to answer your question, yes, I do feel like there's kind of a return of the feeling of it, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm comforted to hear that because I think it's interesting to me because it's kind of exactly that same timeline for me. It was more than 5 years ago, less than 8 years ago, but somewhere in the 6 to 7 range. And I mean, there were things that I know this isn't a weird episode, but I'll just make it a little bit weird. Okay.
That's fine.
There were some things that the Lord was really opening up and pouring out as far as like downloads and information and instructions to me personally, just in my walk with Him during that time. And some of it had to do with he was saying that we're coming into a time where He's separating the wheat from the chaff in the church. Like this wasn't about the world. This was strictly about the church. And those who truly follow Him and those who are following a man or another system or whatever. And kind of breaking them off a little bit. But also there were some real warnings in there about the need to prepare for things to be different in our country, and how things work. Like, be prepared to be able to get information out in alternative ways. You're not going to be able to rely always on the ways that you communicate now. And that was an interesting one. Do you remember this, Josh? I know you're going to remember this. I had this account.
I was literally, when you first started this conversation, I almost like went like da-da-da-da-da-da.
Watchman News.
Yeah.
I had this Twitter account. I mean, it's still there. And it was called Watchman News because I would get stuff from the Lord, like downloads from the Lord of quick little warnings or things to be looking out for. And so I started sharing it. But there are some other things like, I mean, the stuff that we've been called to in South Africa, which had shifted a bit in the last few years, all of a sudden is coming back up, and in ways like it was in the beginning, and connections with some of those same people. Just really interesting. Even you mentioned kind of going back into the world of employment. I'm back at the job I left. You know, like I didn't go somewhere else. I'm in the same job, same company, same office, like using the same desk. It's weird. But in this conversation I was having with this person I've known for so long, and it's because I worked with them since I was 18 years old. I was talking with them, and in our conversation, I walked away like feeling energized and full of life. And I realized, oh, just because this seems like I'm walking it out way differently, it doesn't mean that I'm not still called to the things the Lord has put before me. And it's not like I'm not still called to unlock these things in the kingdom. It just is coming through a different avenue. And one of the struggles I had with going back is it felt like I had all of this freedom before me. And I could open any door and walk through it, like all of these options of how to walk out my calling. And it felt like I was boxing myself in, right? Like those were some of the real concerns about going back to that kind of employment. But I just was reminded by the Lord, He's like, this doesn't make your calling any smaller, and it doesn't make your influence any less broad. It actually hones it in so that it can spread out further. And that was super interesting to me because it felt like such a step backward. This, making this decision, I didn't take it lightly. And it was a long buildup to going back. And though it's been good, it did feel like giving up some of that. And it's just been really cool to be reminded that, hey, these things are still on the table. I didn't ever actually take them off the table. I pointed you in different directions, but they're still on the table and they're still active. So don't forget to pay attention to this. And remember when I showed this to you a long time ago, I'm bringing it back up now because it's important now too. And to me, it's mind-boggling, and it's also reassuring. It's such a weird dichotomy because it's like, I know who God is. I know He does these things. Like, He's infinite, all of these things, like, they're not going away. But also, if I've moved on and they didn't come to fruition, then, sometimes you feel like, okay, well, that one didn't happen, wasn't for me, is off the table, and nope, here it is.
I mean, I think there are moments where you're like, God's like, hey, I want you to walk this out like this plan. But that sort of is also dependent on a whole bunch of other people. And sometimes He adjusts you not because of you, but because of other people. And sometimes I think, like right now, I would say both of us sort of feel like there's a resurgence to some things that we thought we had kind of set down. And you use the term like greater influence, greater sphere. And like, I think that's like a great way to describe it because it's like, it's kind of it's like going back to it. But I'm a different person. The people around me are different people. The world is a different place. And so it's almost like I got a taste of it, to see like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then like pulled away, whether that pulling away was like, to prepare, make me stronger. Like there's a lot that happened in my life between when I thought I was going to do all the things and now. Like so much has changed in my life. So I think it's kind of, it's kind of interesting because it's not just me that's changed, but the whole global dynamic of things has changed. And in some ways, it's oddly similar.
That's what I was going to say. Super strange. It's like, I mean, scripture talks about it. We talk about it. There are seasons for things, right? Like spiritually, there are seasons for things. And I think if I'm being really honest, I've felt like I've been in a bit of a winter for a while, like longer than a natural season.
Sure.
You know? And sometimes I'm like trudging through it, and sometimes I'm just like, I'm cold. I want to stay inside. And I may have been suffering from a bit of, sad, like the seasonal affective disorder, but spiritually. And I think I've only just realized this in the last 24 hours. Because am I still moving? Yes, but I'm moving a lot slower. And now all of a sudden it feels like something's shifting. And we talk about shifts all the time. It feels like we talk about it all the time, but it's pretty seasonal, you guys.
Yeah.
But it feels like something's shifting. And maybe the season is changing. And it's time to pick up some of those things that you put down. And I'm saying this for myself, but I don't think I'm the only one, which is why I asked, have you been feeling any of this? Yeah. Have you been noticing any of this stuff coming back around? I think there are cycles, and I think God is good, and I think he brings stuff up when we need it, and he mutes it down when we don't, and he'll bring it back up if we still need it. Mm-hmm. And I think we're coming into a time, at least for me, and some of the stuff that I know I'm supposed to do, where it's coming back up. Yeah, and that's encouraging to me. Like, okay, you ever get something from the Lord and he's like, oh, do this, or this is for you, or he's whatever, giving you downloads about stuff, and then it kind of goes quiet, and then you think, oh, I missed the boat.
Sure, yeah.
Have you ever done that? Is it just me?
I don't think you're alone.
Okay. Well, I think maybe I didn't miss the boat. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe you didn't miss the boat. Maybe the boat's coming back around.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, again, not a weird episode, so I don't want to like dive way far in, but like there was some things that we kind of thought were going to happen 5-6 years ago that didn't happen. But those things are kind of back on the table now. Like
oddly.
Yeah.
Like oddly back on the table.
Yeah. And I think, some of them had to do with the financial sector. Some of them had to do with like just global climates of things. And there is, oddly a lot of civil unrest, and there's a lot of unrest, not just in the US, but all over the world. There's kind of like almost like a groaning of like not happy with the way things are.
Yeah.
And it's getting pretty heated in a lot of ways. And at some point it will come to a boiling point. And maybe maybe there was a possibility that things were going to boil over when we first had these, and then, a relief valve was hit. And I think anytime there's like a relief valve, it's God's grace, because I think it allows more people to come in. Like, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about like the blood crying out, and like I don't remember the exact wording, but it's something like, it's not enough yet. Like, and I don't mean that in a, like, there's a certain amount of blood, but like, it's like patience of like, let's give them a moment to see if things can change. And maybe that's what it was like 5 years ago. And maybe it will happen again, and we'll be having the same conversation 5 years from now. Like, I think that's, I remember 5 years ago having so many conversations about like, prophecy is like God saying, hey, here's a possible outcome depending on how my sons respond, depending on how humanity responds. And it kind of feels like I don't know if that's what happened or not, but like, I just think that that's true in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, it is like hey, if we just behave a little bit different, like we could change the whole outcome of it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And we've talked about this. I'm sure we've talked about it on the show before.
Probably.
But we've talked about this personally a lot of times, because I really do believe that. Like, I think God lets his sons in on some stuff that's coming and things to be prepared for. But I also think that just because he says to be prepared for it doesn't necessarily mean that 100% it's going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, people can make different decisions. People can turn. And is it the worst thing to be ready?
Yeah. I feel like the best parallel that's coming to mind is like Nineveh in the Bible. Like, we talk about Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh, but he didn't want to go to Nineveh because he didn't like those people, and he knew that if they repented, God would save them. Like, I think sometimes we gloss over that part of the story. But I think that happens all the time. Like, God's like, okay, we're going to go this route. We're going to do this thing. And then all of a sudden people are like, what if we did this? And he's like, okay, well, that changes. Here's this and this and this and this. And I don't think it necessarily means like global cataclysm. Like, I don't think it necessarily means your whole country is getting destroyed. Like, I don't know that it's that extreme, but like, I think all the time in our life, God's like, hey, be prepared. This is coming. And then we're like, whoa, that's coming. What if I reposition this way? And he's like, oh, well, if you reposition that way, then this is the outcome. Like,
yeah. I also kind of think this, I know this isn't supposed to be a weird episode, but we're called market mystics. So you just get on board. Sometimes we're going to be weird. It makes me think about, so 5 years ago, it was the global pandemic. And there was a huge election happening, and things were just wild in this country. But when he told us to be prepared for this stuff, which was more than 5 years ago, like, be ready for this to happen, be ready for these kinds of situations. We did that. And the catastrophe or the events that didn't happen, I think it's like super blessing that it didn't happen, but also what did come out of that time that we were being prepared for, and honestly, just keeping an ear to the Lord and like, okay, whatever you tell us to do, right? Here we are. We're listening. We're here for it. We're kingdom, right? Look what he did. Like, do you know how much awakening has happened in the last 6 years?
Yeah, for sure.
Globally, it's wild. So if we're coming into a season that feels very similar to that past season, I might just be having some hopeful expectation that there's more broader awakening that's happening.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, those are all like, it's like all opportunity. Like every time we've had one of these situations where we're like, oh, this is happening, and then it doesn't, like, it's just opportunity, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we also talk about the markets and crypto and how much we love crypto. And we've talked about like the importance of Bitcoin and, like, but you have now you have countries recognizing the importance of Bitcoin. And, when we were talking about Bitcoin 5-6 years ago, not even on the podcast, but just with ourselves, like, it was kind of hard to like convince people that there was any value. And now there's
Mm-hmm.
entire countries who have Bitcoin reserves. Like, that's, if that's not a global awakening of some kind, like, I don't know what that is. Like, and, so our belief that Bitcoin was great then when it was $20,000 a coin, now it's $100,000 a coin plus. Like, are we going to have the same conversation 5 years from now and it's $500,000 a coin? Like, it just seems like there is constantly, even with like the lulls and the drawbacks, whether it's in the market, whether it's in our faith walk, whether it's in our life, like the lulls and the drawbacks are like opportunities for more people to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, in the markets, even spiritually.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not that you can't ever get in at any moment, but when things are super hot and heated and heavy, it's not always the easiest barrier of entry, right?
Right.
Man. Okay, well, I'm like sitting here and super hopeful for whatever this next season is. I just know it. Like, do you ever feel like, I feel like when God starts activating his people, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the knowing or the being, it is the like standing at the ready and knowing that he's like, I need you ready.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really exciting like position to be in. And I feel like that's where we're going. That's what's starting to open up again. And I don't think it means it has to be for a fight or some like, I'm not saying this is a rapture, is not the apocalypse, is not the end of the world. I'm not saying it's the second coming of Jesus. I'm not saying it's any of those things. But what I'm saying is God's going, are you ready? And I'm going, yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's like if there is something to like leave the people with, it's like, one, it's not too late. You haven't missed anything. And even if you feel like you do, it'll probably come back around for you. And two, I kind of feel like things are heating back up, both like spiritually, economically. Like, I think all of these things are like coming back around. So if you were ever interested in things, you have another opportunity.
Yeah. Really interesting times.
Yeah.
Thanks for allowing this conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like it opened up even more things for me. And it's always nice to know that you're not the only one going through some of that stuff. It may not be exactly the same, right? Like I don't expect it to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
But something's stirring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listeners, let us know if things are stirring for you.
Yeah. Until then, see you next time. We appreciate you being here.
And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Market Mystics. If you are hungry for more, don't miss out on our exclusive bonus content available only to YouTube members. Demystify the world of cryptocurrency in the cryptosphere and explore everything from outrageous conspiracies to curious current events and out there spiritual musings. Nothing is off limits in Let's Get Weird. Become a channel member on YouTube to unlock these extra episodes. See you in the bonus episodes.